Hello, I'm Dr. Jane Peterson with the Human Systems Institute. I'd like to share some insights and thoughts I have on reading the game board. And by that, I mean understanding and seeing and using, sensing the patterns that emerge in organizations. Especially at this time, it's really helpful to know what your organization is trying to tell you. What is trying to emerge in your organization? There's a great Japanese saying, which I won't attempt to pronounce correctly, but it means reading the air. And it refers to all of the implicit information, the glance on somebody's face, where they look, how they dress, what they do, how two people are in a conversation, the kind of subtle things that shape and give meaning to the context of our lives. So building on this idea of reading the air, one of the things that we're required to do when we're working with organizations is read the air. What is trying to happen in this company? What is trying to happen in this work team? It's kind of hard to do. Organizational helpers, whether you're a manager within a company or you're a consultant or a coach, are required to know a lot of things. Meaning is so dependent on context. We have to very quickly assess what is the history of this organization. How did we get here? What forces are still at play that may be shaping what I'm looking at right now today? We have to be able to assess the players. Are they on the same team? Are there hidden agendas? What is it that people really want? We have to be able to differentiate the explicit goal from the implicit goals. What are we being told that's desired? And what is the organization really doing? What are they really making together? And what is the relationship between those two? So there's a lot going on when you try to work with an organization. It's hard to understand what's happening in the chaos of moment-to-moment daily life. One of the best tools that I've found for really helping both the people within the organization and those who may be tasked with helping or supporting an organization is this tool called organizational constellations. Now, organizational constellations are not astrology or anything like that. It's a very practical way of using the lived experience of the people in the organization to help make visible the patterns that are being created, both the deep historical patterns that are unfolding still in the present, and the way that people are interacting with each other and the circumstances they find themselves in now. There's also a way to see what wants to emerge, what's potential in an organization that could be developed if the leaders could align with it. So these three things, seeing the presence of the past, seeing what's unfolding in the behavior of people now, and seeing what's potential, getting a grasp on what could emerge for an organization. These are three things that organizational constellations help us do. Now, if there ever was a time for organizations to understand what's happening to them, in them, what could happen, now is the time. Whether you're a small shop or you're an organizational consultant or you're working with a Fortune 100 company, right now, getting a sense of what is trying to happen and how to respond to these unique circumstances that we find ourselves in is more critical than ever. Organizational constellations tap into the felt sense, the implicit knowledge that people who are living in organizations have, but can't always put language with. Very often we have a gut sense of what's going on, but we can't really explain it. Now we know that the story-making mind is really good at making something up. If you've ever run across a colleague and they have a frown on their face, or your boss is looking particularly cranky on a particular day, you'll find that before you even are aware of it, the part of your mind that provides explanations and tries to anticipate the future so you can be ready, has made up a story. Sometimes stories are useful, and sometimes they lead us astray. So what we do in constellation work is we go with the deeper knowledge that human beings have of the environments that they live in and the relationships that they partake in. And we allow them to make that visible. For many of us, as leaders, as coaches or consultants, as managers within a company, the question of what do I do is a pressing concern. What is the right thing to do in this situation? So having a sense of what's really happening and what I can do about that really can make you a more effective leader or consultant or coach. So that's why we use organizational constellations as one of our main tools at the Institute. We've discovered that it really helps people make good choices. It helps them align with the forces that are at play. I'll tell you just a little story, a short example. I once did a case, was involved in a case for a company, and it was a lovely company. The person that brought the case was one of the higher level people within the organization. Loved her work, loved her clients, admired the boss, the owner of the company, a great deal. And yet everyone in the company had fallen ill at one time or another. And there was a sense of burden in the company. It turned out that this was a company in Europe that had suffered during the Second World War, and there were entanglements that both owners had been involved in. One owner actually had committed suicide, and this was just a personal, very heavy burden that he carried. And yet it affected the whole company. And it turned out that it was really hard for people to be well without really examining the burdens of the past that had given them both opportunities and had created burdens in the present. So, that's a short example of how the history of an organization can play into the way it's unfolding in the present time. What I find in this time with the coronavirus and so many companies facing such hardship is that our history is important. It shapes the patterned, habitual responses that we have to a crisis. And it means that we are not always seeing clearly what our best course of action is. So this is a way for us to actually stand up, and see the relationships that are at play. Rather than just having to go by our gut feeling, we can put the whole system on the floor and look at the complexities that are unfolding there. Constellation work also has a long history. We've developed a deep understanding of forces like the need to belong, the way that give and take needs to be balanced in families and how that's different in organizations, what social order means within a company, and how to honor those who came before as well as those who are making contribution now. So we've learned a lot of the deeper behavioral motivations that seem to drive some of the complex behaviors we see on the surface. And that, combined with the ability to read pattern as it emerges within an organization, can equip a business leader, equip an organizational consultant to make better choices in sometimes very complex and chaotic situations. So we are starting a course. This is our second cohort of an online course in organizational constellation work. It begins April 24th, and it's an every other week, a 2.5-hour online course with an online classroom to back it up. And if you want to register early, there's a big discount up through April 15th. So if you check in the link below, you can find the URL for that. It's a bit.ly link, and it's 2020-OCO. So if you're interested in learning more about the course and registering and becoming equipped to use this method of helping your organization or helping those that you help in organizations navigate this difficult time. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you'll join us.